Okay, we are live.
Okay.
We are live. We are live in the studio. Alright.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 22 of Flooded Cinema. And today I'm joined by Maximus. Say hello.
Hello.
Um, I hope everyone can hear us. Hope the audio is good. And I just wanted to do a quick shout out for you, Maximus, for your woodworking. I think I have your Etsy store in the description of this video. So he does good work over there, making crosses and yeah, that's what you do basically, right? Make crosses and other shelves and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Right now, pretty much just have the crosses, but looking at making some other items in the future. But
Yeah,
appreciate the plug.
yeah, that's all good. I think yeah, everyone should go check it out. It's good to support other people, especially in these times that where everyone's sort of having some difficulty. Um, But anyway, that's enough. That's enough of that. Enough finance. We're here to discuss two movies, and I think this is an interesting episode today. This month of October we're doing vampire films, and so I thought it'd be good to cover the OG, the original. So we're doing Nosferatu, the original, 1922, and then the remake made like 57 years later by Werner Herzog. So Uh, what were your thoughts in general on watching these back to back?
Well, I mean, just incredible symbolism throughout. There's, my mind was kind of just turning every which way with every character uh,
Mm,
as they appear. Um, but yeah, really, really interesting. I don't know. I had a couple points, I guess, but I guess
yeah,
initially just thinking about I watched the 1922 first, um,
yeah.
and the main character, I forget his name, Hutter.
Hato,
Hutter.
Hato, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And he gleefully, rejects any kind of supernatural or spiritual super things
yeah,
that are being told to him about this evil guy, and I just thought that was pretty great,
yeah.
just
Um,
to see him just willfully abandoning warning.
mm. So we'll give a few biographical details. So Nosferatu. So pretty much the original. So 1922. It's a silent film directed by F.W. Murnau. Murnau. I don't know how you say his name. But pretty much it was a rip-off of the novel Dracula, the original Dracula, and
Yeah.
they got sued, and most of the prints of the movie actually got destroyed. So, and then only a few years later did the it sort of get preserved, and then people started appreciating it as a masterpiece of cinema or sort of an important historical bit of cinema. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's just funny that they changed like a few details from the book. But yeah, they got sued. It's just kind of funny to think of intellectual property things even 100 years ago now. Um,
Yeah.
but I had never seen this before, and I haven't watched too many silent films. I can think of maybe one or two other silent films I'd watched. But
Yeah, I found that to be kind of a challenge. My only exposure to Nosferatu was from SpongeBob. I don't know if you've seen the what is it? There's some episode anyway where he makes an appearance flicking a light switch. But
uh, I yeah, it is like it's a very different medium when it is a silent film compared to obviously when you can have the actors talking and dubbing in sound and things.
yeah, you almost get like the mix, like the acting you get on a stage, very
Yeah,
dramatic,
yeah,
overacting kind of thing.
yeah. Because this is really it's cinema had only really been a thing for I don't know 10 years or something at that point. I don't know. I don't know my film history that well. I'll be honest, but it was very interesting to watch for sure, because you just see watching it how influential it has been, and how like pretty much, I mean, certainly all of the shots with Count Orlok have been referenced a million times, since this movie's come out, basically.
Yeah, well, just the use of light with his shadow.
Yes.
Pretty creative. I imagine it looked really, really stunning. Just having this shadowy specter moving around through your house.
Yeah.
And
I like with so this movie. So the plot is pretty much Hutter gets sent by his boss to go sell a house to Count Orlok, who lives in Transylvania, and they're in Germany or wherever they are. It doesn't really. Where are they? Wisberg, wherever that's supposed to be.
the area. So
Yeah, so he's traveling.
Romania. I don't know.
Yeah. He's traveling, and we get some cool shots when he's I love the opening, like how idyllic his life is. He's got his loving wife, and they're doting on each other, and he's just smiling and just so optimistic the whole time.
Yeah, he's I definitely encourage people to try and watch at least the beginning, just to see how happy this guy is. You hardly ever, you won't see anybody act like that ever in a movie.
No, it's like comedic. It'd be considered comedic overacting nowadays. Yeah. It's like Jim Carrey or something. And his boss's name is Knock, something like that. And I thought I liked his character. He was just so over the top, sinister looking.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to say, I loved the when we were first introduced to him, he's reading this sort of like esoteric document with all these weird symbols and stuff on it. And it's just, very over the top.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to understand like the initial relationship between him and Orlok, but I don't know if, obviously he considers him master, as doing his bidding, but I don't know. You don't really get to know. You don't really get to know how or why that came to be, but it's not really important, I don't think. So.
Yeah. It's just sort of implied that at some point he got involved in something and became put under Orlok's spell.
Right.
I
really like how Knock he gets scapegoated in the end. And he was. How do I say this? He was. I'll come back to that, I guess.
That's okay. So we follow Hutter traveling to Transylvania, over to the Carpathian Mountains, and he's in Romania, and he's in this little village, and he goes to the inn, and he says, "Oh, I'm off to visit Count Orlok," and there's like a moment where everyone sort of stops what they're doing and
double take.
Yeah. And then they say, "No, you shouldn't go visit him. He's evil. He's a whatever." And the innkeeper's wife gives him the book. Does she give him the book in the original one as well? I don't quite remember. Or is the book just in his room?
He had the book. Maybe it was at the end that he got the book. I don't quite remember.
Yeah, but pretty much he gets given a book about vampires, and he looks at it for 1 second, and then he throws it on the floor. And
this is superstitious nonsense.
Yeah.
Get this out of here.
Yeah.
I'm a worldly scientific man. I don't need this
Yes.
junk.
Um,
Yeah, he can't. They can't. He's immediately failing to recognize evil when people tell him
yes.
that something is evil, and that's kind of what I liked about Knock. I guess I was kind of getting to that was they still can't recognize evil. They're just seeing like a person corrupted by evil.
Yes. I think he's just crazy or whatever.
Yeah.
And then so he throws away the book, but he keeps the book. Something for whatever reason he decides to keep the book, even though he's sort of thrown it away. Like he throws it on the floor.
Right.
And
you gotta pick up your room when you leave.
yeah.
I don't know.
And then he has the there's like the classic. He gets a bit of a ride, part of the way to Orlok's castle, and then the carriage driver says, "I will not go any further from here," basically.
Right.
And I like
the original one isn't in the Herzog film. Didn't people just refused outright to take him?
Yes.
He had to walk.
Yes, he had to walk the whole way. I was about to say the thing you have to sort of understand going into this film, which is not. I mean, you sort of work it out. I worked it out eventually. It wasn't immediately obvious to me, but the scenes are either yellow or blue, basically. And when it's blue, it's nighttime, and when it's yellow, it's supposed to be daytime, basically.
Yeah, they even had a purple at one point.
Yeah, there were a couple other colors they used at different times.
Yeah.
But I think particularly
obviously.
when it's the blue shots, it really the composition and things looked really amazing in that light.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. No night vision cameras. We gotta do what we can here.
Yeah, and I really like the set design. So like even at the inn, his bed is weirdly high up off the ground. And particularly
like
in the castle, everything's sort of this exaggerated, turn of the century, early 1900s. It's where the whole German expressionism thing comes from. These very interesting sort of set designs and things like that. And I really enjoyed that. It was interesting.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, and then he finally gets to the. Was there anything else you wanted to say before we talk about it? Him actually meeting Orlok.
No, I think he's.
Yeah. Okay. So he meets Orlok, and he's extremely creepy looking. And I love he's saying, "Oh no, my servant. There's no we can't use my servants. It's too late at night or something." And so there's this dinner there, and it's never explained how he actually does get the food or where the food comes from. Because like the implication is there are no servants, that he's killed everyone basically.
Right.
Spoiler alert! It turns out that this Count Orlok guy is actually a vampire.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It really had you on your seat, wondering who was going to be the vampire.
Yeah, and I really I like that dinner scene quite a lot because he's still hasn't clicked that something weird is going on yet. He's just sort of. I like how naive he is in this version.
Definitely distinct between Herzog and the 1920s movie.
Yeah, he's
a lot more skeptical in Herzog. And
yeah.
Gleefully ignorant in the other.
Yeah. And I love he gets so pretty much he cuts his hand while he's eating dinner by accident because the blades are rusty or something, and then Count Orlok sucks his hand.
Makes a move on him like a weirdo.
Yeah.
Blood out of your hand.
Yeah.
Let me take care of that for you.
Yeah. I guess they didn't have band-aids then, so was that the done thing maybe? Just
I
sucking on
don't
your
know.
bro's hand.
No way you could do it yourself. That'd be weird.
Yeah, yeah, true. Um, and I think we should briefly discuss the look of Count Orlok. Uh, I mean, it's he's quite famous. You know, if
Oh
you would
yeah.
have seen pictures of his character, and even if you didn't know it was from this movie, you know, if you just look it up,
Recognize him. Yeah, he's a recognizable monster.
yeah, he's just the
Human enough that his features are otherworldly,
yeah
for sure.
he reminds me, uh, particularly in the remake, he reminds me a lot of Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Like he looks, it's not that he's because in a lot of vampire media, it's sort of uh, they're still handsome or they're either handsome or they're completely monstrous. Whereas this is sort of it's more
Right.
like he's a corrupted, fallen person. Like something has
Yeah.
twisted him.
Well,
Um,
yeah, it's like he's yeah. I thought that was pretty well done, just for the monster image of somebody limping along life for
mm,
eternity. You know, it didn't seem like, I don't know, it didn't seem out of this world for him to look that way if this could happen to him.
yeah.
Not just a pure imagined monster, kind of a real progression, I guess.
Mm. And I love his the way he walks like he's got he's got those like really padded shoulders on his jacket or whatever, and he's just walking around. And he's just constantly look like he's hunched over and things like that. And
Yeah, he got arms
uh,
straight down,
and if you've watched
sleeping.
if we jump back to a previous episode, Vampire's Kiss, Nick Cage when he sort of is you know whether or not he is actually a vampire in that movie, I'll leave it up to you to decide. But he walks around like Nosferatu, like he's got his shoulders up, and he just looks completely deranged, and it's just sort of you know. And there's lots of other things in this movie that obviously every other vampire movie makes a reference to, and it's yeah, it's
Yeah, definitely.
you know, it's just it is really really iconic, and um, yeah. So I just found it yeah really interesting going back and actually watching this movie. Um, just trying to think what else. Oh, then he falls asleep and then he wakes up with little marks on his neck and then he just assumes it was mosquitoes.
Yeah, big mosquitoes. He writes back to his wife. Oh man, these are
Yeah.
really brutal mosquitoes. Have the craziest dream I don't care about. But
Yeah, and then I love that he writes a letter then to his wife, and he just says, "Oh, everything's all right. I just got bit by some mosquitoes."
yeah, yeah, he runs out and hails a traveler and says, "Hey, send this letter.
Yeah.
See ya." He goes back into the castle.
Mm. And
Yeah,
then we also have his wife is begins to have visions of or begins to be affected by um, Orlok's magic or something like that, and
like
has nightmares and whatnot.
sleepwalking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, where are we up to?
that's after Count Orlok sees a picture of it, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
Because he.
decides that
Yeah.
desires her or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also, he immediately signs the deal to buy the house.
Yes. Yes, because
Once
he
he
wants to
sees
go. He wants to go and get
something
the wife.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to think what else is there to say about the castle. Oh, and then he finds. I like all the the shots of him sort of just exploring the castle during the daytime, and then he finds Orlok in his coffin.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which is well done. And then there's the one bit which I found very goofy in this movie is he sees Orlok leaving the castle, and he sees Orlok putting all the coffins onto the carriage, and the vision of he just looked very silly carrying around the coffin.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially when he got, just kind of jumping forward, I guess, into the plot, but when he got into town and he's unloading all these coffins,
yeah.
looks ridiculous.
Yeah. And I really like that. So he sort of sneaks onto a boat. Orlok sneaks onto a boat. And I really like he's on the raft, but then the raft gets sent to a boat, and then he gets put on.
I thought that was a very interesting thing.
Yeah, but I really like the boat sequence. I think I thought the boat sequence was better done in this one, personally.
Which one?
The original, the 22 one.
They were very similar.
Yes.
I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I do like. I don't know if I'm remembering it right, but I think there was a scene where Count Orlok appears as like a flash, almost.
Yeah.
And that's really the only image you see of him on the boat. Where I think in the Herzog he's more, lurking and visible.
Well, there's that one shot where you see him sort of prowling about a little bit on the boat. From taking
over the boat.
Yeah.
To finally take over the boat, right?
Yeah.
I think in Herzog's there's more steps. But you see him hunting more.
Yeah. And then what else is there? I mean, I'm just trying to think of what other things are there to talk about in this movie rather than just going through the plot. I don't know what I felt like in this movie. The portrayal of like the Dracula character he was much more bestial in this. It was much more like he'd been turned into an animal thing, whereas I found, I guess, in the Herzog he was more sympathetic, I suppose you could say.
Slightly, and that might just be due to the fact that we can hear him, I think.
Yeah.
In Herzog, that might be part of it. But he is a really weird and creepy dude in Herzog. I don't really like listening to him speak. He's a weirdo.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll try and wrap up with the original one, because I've got a lot more to say about the Herzog one.
Okay.
So pretty much he sort of semi takes over the town. Like, people start dying. Then the husband rushes back. Yeah.
That's dead, right? And the townsfolk suspect it's the Black Plague.
Yes.
Based on that log. And then the rats that were in the coffins escape and invade the town. And that the dirt that was in the coffins is like, I don't know, key to power or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that wasn't really explained that extensively or anything.
Yeah.
And then, pretty much the wife finds out that
they had a placard on it, actually, where they did say that the vampire basically got its power from the damned earth at which it was buried.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That's
funny. And then pretty much finds out where the wife is, and he goes to bite her. But then she's found out that the one way you can trick a vampire is get them so interested in drinking your blood that they forget that daytime comes.
Yeah, he finishes the book that the other guy threw away.
Yeah.
Her husband threw.
Yeah.
Learns the trick that's just written in a book for how to kill a vampire.
Yeah. And then he's sucking her blood or whatever, and then daytime rolls around. He hears the cock crow, and then he basically disappears in a puff of smoke.
Yeah, goes to leave, gets hit by the morning sun in the window. Oof. Gone.
Yeah. I think what I liked a lot about this movie is that there was a very clear-cut, good and evil. I liked the way that the supernatural was sort of not really explained that extensively, because I think that's a more realistic depiction of how sort of supernatural and occult things work. It's sort of this subtle thing where unless you know what's going on, you wouldn't think that it is actually occult or demonic or anything like that.
Right. So like when the rats are infecting everything, supposedly they think it's the rats.
Yeah.
They're missing the true evil behind it. And same with Knock, and that kind of theme kind of played out between those two images, I guess. So you've got the crazy fanatic who is like celebrating the return of evil to this town.
Yes.
And then, of course, he gets attacked for that.
Yeah.
But they missed the true monster.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I have not actually I don't know what the actual original Dracula story is that well, to be honest. So I don't know how this compares to that, but I enjoyed watching the original movie. Just as we said, there's so much you can get out of it in terms of history of cinema and things like that. But it can be a bit of a slog if you're not prepared to the fact that it's a silent film, I guess.
Yeah, I think waiting after I've read the cards, just sitting there waiting for the card to change. That was hard.
Yeah.
But no, it is really a good study, I think, for films. If you're interested in film in historical sense, just in film in general, probably a good one to watch.
Yeah,
so.
I'd say in general this is a good double feature, and we'll get into it. But I would say I recommend the original. Maybe you could watch it on 1.2 speed or something, because you really
almost double. You could probably get it.
Yeah.
But there's some points you probably want to have it go a little slower, but
yeah. But it's just it is just interesting because the language of film hadn't really developed that much at that point, so things had to be spelled out. I mean, and the thing is, the plot is not super simple. Like there are some sort of there are much more simple plots that are being made in movies today. But everything is it has to be spelled out visually, obviously, because they can't rely on dialogue and things like that. But yeah, it was an interesting movie. I think we'll get more into the themes of both of them after I guess we've discussed the second one a bit more. Do you have anything else you want to say about the 20s one? All right, Nosferatu, 1979. So, uh, I really love this movie, but then I like Herzog. He is just an amazing director, and it was really interesting watching this immediately after watching the original, just because I just felt like it was it's a pretty much a straight upgrade. It's a perfect remake, taking
Yeah,
what was
definitely. I
interesting
thought
about the
that.
original, and then maybe I'm a pleb, maybe I'm a whatever, that I couldn't appreciate the 1920s one, but I felt like this was just like the perfect remaster, just about. Um, and very, there was some changes, like to the ending was a little bit different, but it was basically the same movie, but just done in color. Number one, done with sound, and more uh, acting you would expect from a film. So, and I
Yeah,
just my
we'll get
overall
we'll
impression
get
was
to the
good.
end. We'll get to the ending, but
Yeah.
that was probably my least favorite part of the Herzog film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to that. That'll be interesting. Um, so again, this movie plot wise, for the first, most of it is pretty much the same. So we won't try and reiterate the plot too much, but give some interesting little factoids here. So um, Nosferatu is one of the original, was apparently Werner Herzog is one of his favorite movies of all time, so he wanted to remake it, and he worked out that 1979 was the year that the Dracula book actually went into public domain. So, there's a certain something poetic about the fact that Nosferatu got done for copyright infringement, and then he decides to wait. So then his remake, he waits until Dracula is public domain, to redo it. Um, I think, yeah, this movie has amazing cinematography. Is sort of the first thing that I would really love to praise about it, and the acting, particularly from Klaus Kinski as Count Dracula in this one, is, yeah, phenomenal. Um, what have I got
Yeah,
written
he,
here?
he he played an incredible weirdo. Very very monstrous.
Yeah. Um, and the music as well, done by Popol Vuh, some of it, which is a band, like a 70s krautrock band, which they're a good band. I love that when he's traveling and he gets to Romania, it's very, very, very obvious he's in Romania. Just everyone's dressed.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's almost like overdone,
Well,
but I like that.
I did want to mention in the original. Sorry, I know we moved on, but
Oh, to go
in
for
the
it. It's okay.
original, the captain is removed from the book, from the
Oh,
mast of the ship,
yes.
wheel of the ship. Um, one of the townspeople makes the sign of the cross in the Orthodox way.
Yes.
So
Huh.
cool.
Yeah.
Because there's some mirror imagery there,
Mm.
which is important in vampires. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
when you make the sign of the cross in the Orthodox way, you're mirroring as the priest would do it to you.
Yeah.
So anyway, pretty loose kind of thing, but I thought that was interesting.
No, that is interesting. Um, I love him traveling to the castle, and it's just all these. It's ambient music, and then it's just shots of him walking on all these like foggy mountainside areas, and it just looked, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, he was definitely getting deep into some adventure.
Yeah, I
Good.
I just loved. Yeah, I just loved the cinematography. It just like pretty much every single shot you could turn it into a desktop wallpaper or something. You could it just looked so good. Yeah, so he's in Romania. and then this, similar thing. We have a similar scene where he says, "Oh, I'm going to visit Count Dracula," and then everyone does the double take. And I like how that felt sort of more exaggerated in this one as well.
Yeah, I think with with more dramatic horror and
Yeah.
just having, I don't know, some human sound gasping or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It adds to that moment.
Yeah. And in this one, yeah, he's not as immediately dismissive of when he's given the vampire book, as well. Like his characters, he's more like he's just like an everyman in this. He's not necessarily super naive or any. And I mean, and especially once he meets Count Dracula.
The town itself, the people there warn him, oh, these people are superstitious, they believe in ghosts, all this, so he's kind of primed to not believe what they tell him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely is just kind of going along and with what he has known, which is that the supernatural is not a real thing to be concerned with.
Yeah. And that's made much more obvious a theme in this in the remake. Much more explicit. Particularly towards the end when the wife is, arguing with the scientist guy and stuff.
Yeah, it was very explicit. It was almost to the point of being heavy-handed, in my opinion.
Yeah. I
mean, at least, I guess for the time period, maybe it didn't feel that way, but in the world we currently live, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, he gets to the castle, and then we're introduced to Klaus Kinski as Nosferatu, and his performance is genuinely creepy, genuinely very, very creepy. And I don't normally get like creeped out by things, but I found him genuinely creepy, especially the first couple scenes with him before you've sort of gotten used to him.
Yeah, he's not as welcoming in this one. He's more annoyed, right?
Yeah.
Or do I have that backwards?
I mean, it's hard to say. That's
opposite. Yeah, he's more welcoming in this one. He's kind of creepy almost. And
yeah. And
he's you've been on the road all this time, blah blah. Come on in and let me stare at you.
Yeah.
My weird.
And it's made much more. I think it is just because you have him talking, and because the way the camera can sort of move around and the editing can be more updated, it is, you can achieve much more of that awkwardness and that tension between, him and the Hunter. But the dinner scene I found really it really creeped me out. Like when he cuts his hand, and they both stand up, and he's much more resistant to Dracula's advances, basically.
Yeah, that was super weird. I mean, how did you describe that moment? It's very.
It's just very like he's much more intense.
What kind of psycho have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
In the original, he's just like, well, that was weird, and
yeah.
Or told us that sure.
In the original, he's sort of the Orlok in that one. He's portrayed. It's more like he's this standoffish, aristocratic gentleman who, kind of thing, and he's just sort of a bit maybe eccentric, whereas in the remake he's much more yeah, much creepier and much. He doesn't come off as like aristocratic necessarily. It's more that he's just yeah, it's
He's an animal.
yeah,
Yeah, he's um, and he talks about that. He expresses sympathy for with the wolves and
yeah.
other animals of the night, or werewolves, I believe. Is it werewolves in this one, or was that the
I don't think there's werewolves. I think he just hears wolves howling, and it's just sort of
Okay.
um,
Yeah, and he says something like
the creatures of the night.
children of the night,
Yeah,
children of the night are crying or something,
yeah,
and then he mentions something about modern or the people, general people, not
understanding.
relating to hunters or something.
Yes, yes. You don't have the
Remember
soul of a
what he
hunter
said?
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, which just kind of alludes to him being some weird animal,
Yeah,
non-human.
yeah. I yeah. It's sort of like yeah. He sympathizes with the wolves howling because when a wolf is howling, sort of the feeling is it's of this sort of loneliness, but this obligation to a certain solitude, and then also a certain kind of violence to survive. And I think that's what it's kind of, which is it is interesting that now considering all the extra lore we have from pop culture about werewolves and vampires, etc. In the original sort of vampire tale, the vampire related to a wolf in a certain sense.
Right.
Kind of interesting. Um, what else? What else have I got written? Oh, no, I was gonna.
I think the financial aspect was a little more heavily emphasized in Herzog.
Yeah.
He's very, he expresses, okay, I'm gonna go to this creepy guy on a long trip and get a new house. My wife deserves this new house,
Yeah.
etc. And so I think that's kind of his motivation to stay after that weird encounter.
Yeah. It's much more.
He's more willing to work with evil for a monetary gain kind of thing, which.
Well, he doesn't necessarily know that he's evil so much as that he's very, very. His motivation makes so in the first one it basically seems like he's just he's just naive and doesn't really know what's going on, whereas in this one I think they added this monetary aspect, so then it made sense why this guy who seems reasonable would stay at the castle even though he what's his face is clearly a widow.
I guess I'd rephrase it to say that he can't. He's almost blinded by his pursuit of money. In that way, it's like ignoring the signs of a corrupted person. And
yeah, well, because it is funny because everyone tells him, oh, he's evil. He gets given the book, but he doesn't really want to read it to work out what's going on.
Right.
And then we have another really intense sequence of him just like walking around the house, or the castle, I should say, and I like that. So this movie, some of the shots it's it's just a lockdown camera, but then a lot of the time it is someone's holding the camera. It's on someone's shoulder or whatever, and they're walking around, and you get that sort of immediacy and whatnot when things are shot like that. And I really like the when he's just sort of walking around the castle and he doesn't say anything, and it's like a 5-minute sequence of him just walking around not saying anything, but it's, I don't know, I found it really intense. What did you think?
Nothing really happens in that time, and you just get a good feel of the place he's in and lay of the land. So. Yeah, it definitely. I mean, it's a suspenseful few minutes of nothing, which is interesting.
Yeah, and I like that it's not dark and there's not music priming you for it to be scary. It's just the way his acting, and
right.
the cinematography just sort of
Oh,
work perfectly
you're
together.
exploring this creepy place with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just, yeah, swelling volume
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you open a door or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. And
Oh, it's nothing.
I think it's just his performance is sort of realistic. Like if you were in that situation, you would just be walking around, not saying anything, not stopping. You'd be processing it internally, Whereas in a modern horror movie or whatever, you'd have a character walking down a dark basement, and they'd be picking up objects and like talking to themselves, like, "Huh, this is a book or something," kind of thing. But I really like this movie. The way that they did, built the tension in a subtle way.
Yeah, that was very good.
And then we pretty much again have a similar, there are similar events. He finds the coffin, and then he gets trapped in the castle, and then he sees Dracula preparing to leave, basically. And I find it interesting that he did change, because it does look kind of goofy, him carrying all the coffins, but he shot it in a way that we didn't just watch him do the entire thing, which is what we saw in the original.
It was pretty odd in the original. He's like skipping around in the yard with like one arm holding the coffin.
Yeah.
It just looks ridiculous. So yeah, big improvement in that area.
Yeah. And then we have similar again. We have the sort of the boat sequence, and we also have the wife beginning to sleepwalk and things like that.
He's visited by a bat.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night.
And I like how many rats he manages to use in this movie.
Oh, it's an enormous amount of rats.
There's no shortage of rats here.
Can't imagine being responsible for the rats.
Well, if you look up how the rats were treated, I wouldn't say they were responsible for them.
Just a bunch of rats and then take care of them at the end of the shot, or?
I mean, I'm pretty sure all the rats were killed, just about.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it was the 70s. No one cared about animals then.
Yeah, another thing.
Now, I'm just trying. What else we got written down here?
You've seen the War and Peace 4-part series in Russian. It has these tremendous battle scenes with forces.
Oh yeah.
Tripping all over the place, and probably getting horribly injured. But that's a really great film. I'd recommend.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. But yeah, probably not good for animals.
No. Oh well. Oh, and the other sequence I found really creepy is when it is just before he sort of does the whole exploration thing, where it's like the middle of the night. He's like lying in bed, and then Count Dracula comes in to the room, basically, and is just slowly walking towards him, and that reminded me a lot of, like, if you've ever had sleep paralysis, what that's kind of like.
Yeah, and he's just it is like exactly like that. He's powerless to stop this guy.
Because the thing is, he'd already been bitten at that point, so at that point he was already somewhat enchanted by him.
Right.
Or bewitched by him, or whatever the term is. Yeah.
But yeah, after that feeding, isn't there another because of that where it's like clear he's just being feeded on?
I can't quite remember the exact sequence of events, but anyway, we'll jump ahead to when he arrives to town, and this movie makes a lot more use of like apocalyptic imagery and the idea that everyone thinks it's a plague. What's happening in the town? You know, there's
Yeah.
that amazing shot of like the aerial shot, like looking over the town square, and then you have everyone walking through holding a coffin.
Yeah, yeah. You'll have like what is it, 5 or 6 lines of men carrying
Yeah,
several coffins all at once.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. People are dying, and you know it.
yeah. Um,
Well, even in the original, I think they did a pretty good job of representing
oh yeah,
how
yeah, yeah.
terrible the plague was. They went around marking on
Oh yeah, that's
doors
true.
for that, and then they even made an announcement. They have the guy with the drum who comes and proclaims, if anybody's sick, you know,
Mm,
you can't be leaving your house, die in place. It's kind of the
yeah.
order given, right?
Mm,
And yeah, no, I think it was pretty well emphasized in both,
yeah,
in a little different way, but
yeah,
yeah, definitely that shot with the coffins
yeah.
makes it very real.
And there's much more sort of a, I guess, surreal aspect to it. You know, they're sat in the town square eating this feast, and there's rats everywhere, and everyone's dancing, and um, yeah, I like that sort of apocalyptic imagery.
Yeah, and throughout that plague taking the town, I mean, I can't remember when. Anyway, at some point, his wife, Hutcher's wife, starts. Is it Elena? Is that her name?
I do not remember because their names are different in both of the movies.
Okay. Anyway, she starts to say, she read the book and she has figured out they need to kill
Yeah,
this this specter, and the doctor or whoever telling her that's nonsense. We use science here.
yes,
We'll study these bodies until we figure out what's wrong.
yeah. And then they find the one body, and then the doctor sort of admits, okay, it's not a plague.
Right.
Um, but he still won't admit that it's vampires or whatever. Um, and I find it interesting as well in this one. The husband gets back earlier in the sort of the plot, but he's got amnesia, basically developed amnesia.
Oh, who this woman is who has
Yeah,
missed him so much.
she just faints. Yeah, I like that the wife has more agency in it. Like it's she her she's not just, I don't know, her character is much more fleshed out in this movie, and like she has more interactions with Dracula, which you know they're great scenes as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Um.
and the ending, it's much more emphasized that because the idea is, oh, you have to try and trick the vampire into staying the whole night, and so he will get hit by the sun, and there's much more emphasis on her, like keep pulling him back to like stay with him or stay with her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Well, in her character, I don't know. I start looking at things from a Christian perspective often, and I think this movie kind of lends itself to that in some ways, and kind of where I think the Herzog one kind of almost made that not as strong. Um, if you know what I'm talking about, I guess I can explain. The at least as far with her character, she is, the innocent character who needs to die to defeat this
Yeah.
image of death, and it is totally defeated with light in the end.
Yeah.
But in the Herzog film, this is my least favorite part, is that the husband is still a vampire in the end.
Yeah.
After all
And that
of this.
didn't really make sense.
So, I don't know. There's probably more to say on that end, but that's about as far as I got into thinking about it. But.
Yeah. I think the as you said, one of the strengths of the original, it is I guess it's like it is basically, in a certain sense, it's the woman's purity is sort of like what actually saves the day.
Right. Exactly.
And I think in the original as well, the vampire works. Maybe the depiction isn't as necessarily, from a cinematic perspective, isn't necessarily as powerful. I think it, in general, just like how it is presented, it is more archetypal of this sort of death and like this, archaic, old type, poisonous type thing. Um, Death, plague, whatever. And it is her purity that wins out in the end, and it is sort of a bittersweet ending because she still dies in the first one.
Right.
But she's saved the town basically through her sacrifice, and then obviously in the Herzog one, that element is lost because it is quite a nihilistic ending, honestly.
Right.
It's sort of like
right, and that's where exactly, that's my biggest complaint in the Herzog one, is that it kind of it really cut that message for me harshly. And I did not like it.
Yeah.
But
because it's sort of like in the Herzog one, it is chastising this scientific worldview. It's saying evil is real. But there's not much we can do against it.
Yeah, that's very disappointing.
Yeah.
Even if we sacrifice ourselves or something like that, we're still gonna have.
That being said, I did quite like the moment because he gets trapped by. Now this is I don't know what I don't like this. This is kind of blasphemous, kind of weird. I don't know if this is a Catholic thing or what. But she used the host to trap him in a corner. If you remember that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not remembering that.
So he was sat in the corner, and she read in the book, you can use a sanctified, sanctified host, so like a Catholic wafer, to trap a vampire. So she gets the host and she crumbles it up on the floor and puts it around him so he can't leave that corner.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Which is weird. I don't understand.
Well, I think
she either did it to trap him there, or she did it so that Nosferatu couldn't attack him. Maybe. So I'm not sure if because it's unclear if she has worked out that her husband has become a vampire or not. It's possible she's worked it out. Is what I got from it, at least. But anyway, then there's the moment where he asks the maid to come here, maid, and clean this up. So she cleans up the host, and then he leapfrogs away, and he pulls off his cross, and he just sort of mugs the camera, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I mean, from a. It's much more in keeping with because that's basically how horror movies, from the 70s onwards, all of them have to have a bad ending. You can't have a horror movie that has a happy ending, basically.
Right.
So it's in keeping with the 70s nihilist sort of thing, I guess.
Well, I don't know if that's changed. Do you watch more movies than me? Probably do. I don't watch a whole lot of movies, to be honest. At least modern film. Um, has that really changed? I mean, aren't we kind of stuck in this?
Oh yeah. But what I meant is like, like beginning in the like late 60s 70s very much, particularly horror films would always have a nihilistic ending where, you know, you beat the villain and then in the last second he comes back again. So, you know,
Well, that sets you up for your sequel.
yeah. So I think, you know, like when it happens at the end of, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm not thinking, oh, this is because this movie is nihilistic, which it is in a certain sense, but it's more, yeah, oh, that's just within the convention. Whereas I guess it felt like a weird choice. Since he said he loved the original so much, I don't know why he would change that decision.
Small to some people, but I don't know. To me, it was a pretty visceral change. So, yeah.
Well, it's literally the opposite ending, basically.
Yeah, it is. It is good triumphs over evil versus not really. Or
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. You could probably look at it with a more favorable light, and that maybe we've destroyed the monster, but there's still something lurking, I guess, which is.
Yeah, I mean, like in a certain sense, you could still look at it as, you know, you can't necessarily win a battle with evil that easily, but I don't know. Yeah, it is sort of. Yeah, it is sort of a nihilistic ending, but I mean, I still loved the movie. I think it was just so well acted and well shot, and the costumes are amazing, and the, you know, where everywhere it was shot just looks so good. I can't help but still love it.
Yeah, that was very very enjoyable to watch, especially seeing it as like a very well upgraded movie.
Yeah.
From the original, it was, yeah, like you've already said, a very very good remake.
Oh, we've got Samuel Ratcliffe here is saying that happened in the Dracula novel. They used like the wafers in the cracks of a door to keep the vampire out. Oh, okay, so.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't know. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, I feel like, you know, since these are the, you know, the OG vampire stories, it's, you know, everyone sort of understands the themes and the ideas here present at, you know, and there's just more to talk about with the presentation, I suppose. But we've covered that. I don't know. Do you have much else to say about your experience, your thoughts?
Oh, I did. No, but I did want to mention in the Herzog when there are two times where Nosferatu appears to Helena?
Lucy. I looked it up. In the
Herzog.
Herzog, that's her name.
I think it was Elena or something in the original. I don't remember. But,
yeah.
At first, he approaches and says some like super weird thing, like, "Oh, sorry for my rude entry," or something. It's the middle of the night. He like stops.
Yeah, he says, "Excuse me."
Such a creep.
Yeah, excuse me for not knocking. I think I posted a screenshot of that to Twitter just because it is such a funny. I was like, me DMing e-girls.
Yeah, Sigma energy, big time for sure. Like, this is just how we do it. We just say sorry. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that one. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I just gotta praise Klaus Kinski's performance, because even if maybe, I don't know, maybe if thematically you prefer how the character is portrayed in the original, you know, Klaus Kinski, he's one of the best actors of all time, in my opinion. You know, he was in Aguirre, The Wrath of God, and he's amazing in that as well. He's just such an intense guy. And I find it
Yeah.
funny because you read about the making of these movies, and him and Herzog made like multiple movies together, and it's always just talking about how much they hated each other, but they still keep coming back to make movies together. So it's just sort of funny to me. Pardon?
Work well together. Maybe they don't see it
Yeah, yeah. It must just be,
personal relations,
yeah,
but
must
I
just
mean,
be on the set.
yeah, he definitely did a phenomenal job as this character.
Yeah, and apparently he was in 3 hours of makeup every day
Wow.
to achieve the look.
So,
And I think, yeah, the look in the I don't know what they did in the original, but the remake, yeah, the makeup looks, you know, really really creepy.
yeah, he is extraordinarily pasty.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I like this depiction of vampire. Just I've been watching a lot of these vampire movies now, but it's just interesting to have these more unambiguously evil vampires.
Yeah, I really wish we did a bonus with the little vampire. So I think that would have been the best contrast to these two films.
Oh well, we
But
can.
yeah, no, definitely. uh, no, it is cool. I especially appreciate the original, and I want to see more clear lines of good and evil in stories
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
So just revisiting old things is what I have for now until people decide to, jump away from where we are. But
yeah. I mean, you could rewatch Lord of the Rings for the 50th time, I suppose, or the 100th time, probably.
I guess you could.
But yeah, no, it is good. I mean, that's sort of, yeah, something interesting about these old movies, because we're so used to every movie nowadays has to end with a twist and something like that.
I've got to be sympathetic to the monster.
Yeah.
He's really not that bad. He's misunderstood, that kind of thing. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm very, very sick of that.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Everything's like that now. I mean, there's a little bit of that in this, but I think that just is because of Klaus Kinski's acting.
Well, that's where the little vampire shines. Is that it is exactly that horrible thing. So, if you're an appreciator of clear lines of good and evil, that's a true horror film.
I don't know what else there is to say. I think I would recommend this as a double feature for sure. Just it's so interesting. I just found it so interesting watching the old one, and then I think if you're not used to 70s films, this might be a good way. This is probably a good introduction to 70s films as well. This Nosferatu.
A lot of slower pace, a lot of slower pace in the 70s, and that's a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A lot more, scene development. Like, even if you go back and watch like spaghetti westerns, you'll get the same thing.
Yeah.
Kind of long.
Yes.
Just establishing where we are in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was definitely good as a double feature. I agree.
And I'll have to cover more silent films in the future. I guess it was interesting to dip my toes into it, but we'll have to see what comes down there.
I'd be really interested. I don't know if you've done zombies yet, but very interested in that.
Oh yeah, a white zombie, or
or
Birth of a Nation maybe one day.
There's some good choices out there for sure, and some bad ones. Yeah.
I think we've covered everything.
I got. Yeah, there are some questions I had about the film. Like there's in the initial one they had there's the scene where they're showing the Venus flytrap, and then some weird polyp or something like that. It's just this weird biological.
Yeah.
Where they
that was
point
weird.
To the vampire. I don't know. I probably need to rewatch that portion.
Yeah, there was that section like after he'd gotten onto the boat, which was sort of I didn't really know what was going on. It was unclear.
Yeah, they're going back and forth
Yeah.
between scenes, and yeah, that was interesting.
Mm.
Anyway, I think that's all I got.
Yeah. I was just thinking, just it's another interesting. If you think about this movie compared to say like Frankenstein, where that's more explicitly like science is bad, or like science can lead to dehumanization kind of thing. And then this one, it's sort of interesting that it's like the science and that can blind you to um, like obvious evil, I suppose. So it's just an interesting. It's just interesting going back to these old, like actual old horror things, and thematically, a lot of them are would hold up with like a lot of what people would believe now, like what we would believe now, as Christians.
Right. Yeah, that's why I'm really interested in going to the zombie thing, because it's so cool to I don't know to see these movies in a different worldview than I had previously, probably growing up.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I think we got pretty well through it.
I think so. So, yeah, I recommend both of these. Check out the Etsy page in the description for all your Orthodox woodworking needs. Thank you very much for joining me today, Maximus, and thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really great just to watch some movies in particular and have something to think about for a little while. So
yeah,
appreciate it.
It was good. All right, well, thank you everyone for listening. Good night.
All right, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ignatius. Good night. Oh, thank you everyone who has been listening. Yes, thank you, Gregory. Thank you, Ignatius. We've had Hua jump in as well. Had a few of the bros jump in. Anyway, good night, everyone.